Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I'm going to start into the presentation with a quick team introduction, a company overview, going over our current design tools, our design organization and design process, and our journey from a GIS design tool to an automated utility design solution. And the first four bullets are all about Dominion. And I figured I'd share that with y'all because we're new to this community. And I wanted to generate a lot of questions and conversations throughout the conference so we can share data. And our journey, Pat said earlier that the ink is still drying. And we're down, last week was our knowledge transfer class. I don't know how many of you have been through that before, but it was a 3-day class. It was very informative. So we're barely crawling as it is right now. But to begin with, a little bit about myself. I've been with the company for 35 years, 12 years as a designer, 3 in our engineering standards department with overhead construction manual, and for the past 20 years been supporting the ArcFM Designer application and other system supports. I was basically a one-person team. And I said, we can't, if we're going to follow the AUD route, I need more people. I need at least 3 people to help support this first time, full time. So Gary Norman, who's with us today, raise your hand, Gary. I'm going to put you on the spot. He was the first addition to my team. 10 years as a draftsman. I remember when I first started with Dominion, I was drawing everything by hand. And Gary would take that and drafting department and eventually put it on in the maps. He helped implement AutoCAD in the late 90s, early 2000s, and get that going. And now he's part of a team to make AutoCAD our main design tool. I know he's very excited about that. He was an operation analyst for 2 years, 20 years as a project designer, and 4 years as a design specialist. Brings a lot of knowledge to my team. And we also brought in Harry Canaday. He only has, 7 years experience, but a great background in AutoCAD and GIS and in design. He's probably the most technically savvy person we have on our team. You can raise your hand, Harry. And lastly, Jeff Adamczyk. 3 years as a designer, 12 in our GIS as a lead technician, and he's a perfect combination to help us with this team because he's worked in the design field and the GIS. And you can raise your hand as well, Jeff. So please reach out to my team if you have any questions and want to share some of your experiences. A little bit about our company on the electric side. Our headquarters is in Richmond, Virginia. We employ over 17,000 people in 16 states, which is kind of amazing. 26,000 megawatts of electricity in solar, wind, nuclear, gas, coal, hydro. 6,800 miles of electric transmission lines. Almost 60,000 miles of distribution lines. And 2.7 million electric customers. 80% of that are smart meters. And we're really hoping to leverage bringing that in to AUD in our GIS. And this is a quick footprint or overview of where Dominion is in the U.S. We have gas all the way out in Utah. Years ago, we bought SCANA, which was down in South Carolina. They've got a gas and electric down there. And for us, we're going to concentrate on Virginia and North Carolina power today. On the electric side. You see all the little yellow stars up there. That's our privatization group. We are physically on a military base or military bases throughout the country. We take care of their electric design needs, their maintenance and construction, and it's a pretty good gig to have. To give you a feel of what it looks like in Virginia, we have 35 electric district and regional offices siloed into Eastern, Central, and Northwest. And the leadership structure is one director over all of this with managers, superintendents, and supervisors. And I know everybody's set up a little bit differently, but here are all of our are real workers out there. The designers, we have positions 1 through 3 based on experience level. Design engineers, there are engineers that, degreed engineers that come into our group that work on special projects. We have design specialists. They're beyond a designer 3. They want to stay not in the like leadership role, but in the design world. And we want a space for them to keep them and preserve them in the good work they do. Design coordinators, they check our work and they mentor our designers. Technical coordinators, they take care of our contractors. We have a lot of vendor contractor designers out there, and joint use utility administrators do a lot with our joint use groups and contracts. A quick view of our GIS. It was established in about 1998. We digitized everything. The information, the attributes that were put in were generic. If you take a look at a lot of our polls, they're 1950. And then they get updated as jobs go through. And then we had a big conflation project to move things more correctly. I want to say there's a lot of things that still aren't correct. You can find facilities and roads or lakes or somewhere. Our platform is Geometric Network 10.81. Our editing tool is Schneider ArcFM Editor 10.81. We have 28 editors and 12 specialists in the GIS group. And Jeff is one of those. With the present of having 16,000 versions in your GIS. And I do have a frowny face. When you have 16,000 versions, you have slow performance for the editors, whether they're in GIS services or in design. And it's a lot to manage and maintain. And those, and we have a project currently underway to go to the utility network. We started about a year ago. Hopefully we have only 2 more years left before we make it there. And our UN editing tool, if you have any insight on what you're using or what you've looked at, please let us know. We've looked at 3 or 4 that are in the running, and we would love your input if you have any suggestions. Our current design tool is ArcFM Designer. We've used this for over 20 years, since 2003. It has served us very well. It was a lot of work getting people up to speed on it, but we have been using it for 20 years. It's fully integrated with our work management system. As I said earlier, we have over 16,000 jobs out there. And those jobs go through a reconcile process every 1 to 2 times a week, if we're lucky. And guess what? We continually have conflicts that the GIS group has to clean up. And do designs get corrupted during this process? Yes. And it's very difficult to go to a designer where their project looked great one day and then the next day it's torn apart. And I'm going to go into this a little bit further in a few minutes, but part of our workflow is they design it in ArcFM, it gets worked in the field, and the project goes back to the designer at the end, and they have to take a look at it before they give it to GIS to see if there are any field changes. So at any given time, they could have 500 to 800 jobs waiting to be reviewed and given to GIS services. This is a quick snapshot of our Work Manager system. It's called Work Manager by CGI. It's fully integrated with GIS and our design tool. Our material code library, 9,000. I don't know how that stacks up with y'all, but we have about 6,700 compatible units and 2,300 macro. I've heard of other utilities having something much larger and smaller. And to top it off, we are replacing it with SAP next year at this time. And earlier in the presentation, I talked about we went to knowledge transfer last week, and now you're seeing a bullet on here, and you're replacing your work management system within a year. So both of these efforts are kind of colliding. It's the perfect storm. And hopefully next year I can come back and talk about how great it went. We'll see. And if any of you have had any experience migrating to SAP, please let me know. I like to talk to our leadership about it. Our project design groups. We have a lot of project designers, and they all have different roles. It's not all one and the same. Think of local designers as customer-facing designers, small to medium-sized projects, and they are cradle-to-grave designers. That means that they contact and meet the customer. They do the field notes. They do the design, easements, contract and costs with them, staking the projects, and review the as-builts. And we have a goal for them to review those as-builts within 7 days. They don't always stay within that window. Matter of fact, a lot of times they don't. But getting the maps updated keeps our crew safe. It reduces switching errors and reduces outage time during storm. And this is a snapshot from last week, and I blurred out the names to protect the supervisors. These are the number of as-builts per supervisor that they have to encourage their designers to process. It's probably one of the areas where the designers hate doing this. We also have another group that does nothing but subdivisions. Somebody gets their work, they sit at their monitors and just design it, and they love doing that. Joint use, they have people that do nothing but joint use, make ready work, and work on billing. A DOT, highway group, strictly CAD-based design. And I would say we do anywhere from 90 to 95% of our work in ArcFM Designer. So we have a limited AutoCAD, experience within our design group. So that's something that we're going to have to work on as we implement AUD. Regional group, they do a lot of complex and industrial type jobs, including EV charging stations. Engineering design, engineers that come into design, they do solar farms and arc flash studies. GTP, grid transformation projects, they're based on reliability and distribution planning needs. And then, believe it or not, Virginia has one of the largest or the largest data center markets. It's so big that we've dedicated designers just to do jobs for them. And that talks about our Dominion Energy designers. But then we have a lot of vendor designers. And there's a lot of projects that are going on with that. One of them is Strategic Underground. They do a lot of analytics on areas that have a lot of outages. And maybe backlot construction, city doesn't allow you to trim trees, and they seek those subdivisions out and convert them from overhead to underground. All of those jobs are done in CAD. One job to remove the services, the second one to put it underground. And then we have another group that does LED conversions. That's a big thing. We have thousands and thousands of jobs in municipalities asking us to convert the lights. Grid hardening, it could be reconductoring, replacing cross arms. We have vendors going out there to do the work on that. 5G antennas, I don't know if you're experiencing that, but we're hooking them up everywhere. This is relatively new, a rural broadband. We have an initiative in Virginia to extend fiber. And we have a group that extends fiber on our poles that we own and maintain. And we send it out to an independent service provider, and they take it the rest of the way to the end of the line for the customers. And this is our very latest one, a voltage optimization that utilizes data collected from our smart meters and tries to regulate the supplied voltage to save the customer money. So you can see we've got a lot of things going on, a lot of little different groups. I'd love to hear if you have something similar going on. All right. When SBS was in last week, they go, "Do you have some type of high-level workflow you can share with us?" And I said, "Sure." And that is really, really busy. That got their attention. They go, "You need to show that," and here it is. This was in 2002 when we implemented ArcFM Designer, or just about to. So I'm going to give you a lesser version of that. Pretty much the project's created in a work management system. It's assigned to a designer. They engage the customer. They take field notes. If map corrections are needed, they cannot go forward until those map corrections are submitted to GIS and things are brought up to speed on our maps. They design the project. They attach all their engineering calculations, and that is in bold and underlined because I want to come back and talk about that. The project's reviewed and approved. It's worked in the field where the attributes are put in by the crews, the serial numbers, the manufacturer, the cable distances, new features. And then it goes back to the designer, and they have to kind of put a puzzle together of what changed. And construction does not do a good job telling them what changed. However, in ArcFM, we customize it. So let's say at work location 1, a new pole was installed. They'll get a pop-up saying you need to install a pole here, or if the cable distances are different. So they do have some methods, but it is a little bit of a mystery. And then it's given to GIS for posting. Once that's complete, I want to kind of circle back to our engineering calculations. We have dozens of Excel calculators, probably similar to y'all. And for any job that requires a calculation, we have to run it, design for it, save it to a location, and then open our work management system and attach it there. So if I'm doing cable pulling, guying, fault current, voltage drop flicker, streetlight voltage drop, vault sizing, service demand estimator, and SPIDA. And I kind of got tired of copying and pasting images in here. There's a lot more I could have put in here. But doing that, it's not efficient. It's cumbersome. It's just very time consuming. And that's one of the attractive things about AUD is you can kind of do it within the file. All right, I talked a lot about us, and now we're going to talk about our journey. The Don't Stop Believing AUD tour. I was thinking about getting an album cover from Journey, but I decided it might not be protected. So I remember it like it was yesterday, October 2018 at Esri's GeoConnect conference, formerly known as EGUG. It sounds like something a caveman might say, but I believe now it's IMGIS. And what do you like to do at the conferences? You go to them, you listen to all the presentations, and then, 4 or 5 o'clock, the expo opens up. Everybody wants to get a drink, something to eat, get the trinkets, and start walking around and seeing what's new. So I was walking around, and I came across an incredibly tall man and a very passionate man, and I could hear them and see them. So I came over and listened to their demo, and I had so many questions, and I was trying to poke a hole in the application, and I just couldn't find anything. So here are their top 8 answers. It almost feels like Family Feud, top 8 answers. And let me know if you've ever heard of any of these. Yes, AUD can do this. Yesterday in that presentation from Hydro One, he said, yeah, can AUD build a spaceship and go to the moon? Yeah, it can be done. Because AUD is configurable. It's business supported. It's all table driven. I don't know how many times Jim Lucas has told me that. It's flexible. Never had a change order in implementation. We're going to put that to the test. Application sells itself. And number 8, did we tell you it's highly configurable? I almost thought about putting a t-shirt together for this and bringing it, but I ran out of time. And the first thing I thought, are these guys for real? Would a vendor tell you something that wasn't true? So what we did is we scheduled a demo, and we had about 40 people in attendance, and this is in 2019. If you've lost track of time, this is 2023, so this has been going on for quite a while. We had an array of people there representing the different businesses, and the designers were pretty much blown away. I knew all 3 of you, I believe, were there. And I thought after seeing this, it would be an easy sell to leadership. Just analyze the data, build the case per Pat Reed and Jim Lucas. the application sells itself. I've been doing this quite a long time, and I know that I can use my experience. I can look at design tools and say, wow, that's something special, or that's might work for us. You've got that feeling in your stomach, but feelings don't fly with leadership. They want concrete evidence. They want evidence. So my plan was to talk to other utilities, demos, site visits, surveys, a third-party evaluation of SBS, AUD, and other industry tools. And you could say it's kind of like a background check of SBS. I implemented or estimated the project cost for implementation. I engaged our AUD audience, our designers. I don't know how many times at Dominion somebody at the top says, we need to implement this tool, but we're not going to talk to any of the users, and we're just going to make it work. And I've seen that happen too often, so I wanted to make sure we had buy-in from our users of the product. I wanted to also reevaluate industry tools that were out there. I didn't want to make sure we didn't miss something along the way, and then present the recommendations to leadership. So the first thing I did in February 2020 is do a utility survey. 27 riveting questions I sent out to Central Hudson, Puget Sound, and Austin Energy. Tim, Brandon, and Troy, if you're here, thank you, or if you remember even talking to me. Brandon does. Thank you all very much. You're very patient. And those questions range from why did you choose AUD? Are you using engineering tools? 3D? What work management system are you integrated with? Is SBS for real? So that was the first thing, the survey. And part of our third-party analysis is we went and looked for all the utility design tools that were out there. And these were kind of like the top 8 that we found at the time. ArcFM, we knew that ArcFM 11 was coming about, AUD, all the way to MIMS even had a design tool as well. We did a general overview, and we did pros and cons for everything. And that was part of our presentation to leadership. And then we had to do the project cost estimate. AUD is pretty expensive, but it's well worth it. There are AUD costs, there's implementation cost, there's new laptops and servers for us, business support from everybody from design to standards to IT. And we have to move from a network model of AutoCAD to a name user model. And I think Dan and Darren are going to give me an incredible price on all these new licenses. I'm looking for them, or if they're ducking out here. But it really added up, and that scared people in our business. But you have to look at it. If you want something, a world-class tool, at times you have to pay for it. And that was part of the case also to our leadership. All right, so surveys, demos, third-party review, project estimate, all completed in March 2020. And then guess what? The world stopped. The mother of all speed bumps, COVID hit. And that really slowed everything down. There were other project initiatives during that slowdown that were bubbling up to the top. Additional resources were very difficult to get a hold of. The costs of projects, and just with everything going on in the world, we're very concerned about cost. Design leadership. We had a lot of leadership changes. 2019, 3 different VPs, directors, and managers. And when you have leadership changes, what do you get? Questions. Who are they? Why are we doing this? Do we really need to do it? And you just had to keep regurgitating and telling everybody all about it again. So fast forward to 2022, stable leadership, concerns of COVID lessened, and we re-engaged the journey. New items since we started doing things in 2020. Geometric network was underway. We needed to move toward that. Our current tool was not supported by the UN, and we're replacing our work management with SAP. So after reviewing all the data, we came up with two tools that we were candidates to go through with the UN and upgrade to was ArcFM Designer 11, DXI, and AUD. So an overview of what I gave to our leadership team, they said, give us an overview. It's a combination of Map 3D and automated utility design for the software. It has the look and feel of AutoCAD with a GIS flavor, faster than our current design tool. Engineering calculations all inside the application included SPIDA integration. A little bit about Schneider, application built on runtime technology. Look and feel, it's a simplistic application with a GIS field, built for speed and easy to learn in my opinion. Engineering calculations, it pretty much the main thing that they had was integration with SPIDA. So in preparation for the demo for a level playing field, I gave a comprehensive 3-page document to both vendors saying what I wanted to see. Everything from replace a pole, reconductoring, putting manholes in, duct banks. What does your voltage drop, fault current, flicker look like? Can you do one-line diagrams? What do your editing tools look like? I even took it to the next level of saying, here's a sketch. This is something to go by and labeling which each of these examples I wanted to see. So in May of 2022, 29 people from design viewed a demo from both utilities, back-to-back days. And this is, we kind of separated into two things, a training category and a project design, like core designing. Everything from change management to the size jobs that we use to engineering tools. And if you get 29 people in a room, you're going to get a lot of different answers. So I wanted to give them some guidelines on what change management meant. So I'm going to, this is the actual score sheet that I gave them. And I'm going to start on the left-hand side, training and application usage. We had a weighted system in here. So if change management, if they thought their perception of how challenging it would be to go from one design tool to another, if it was difficult, they would give it a 1. If it was easy, they give it a 9. So in this case, let's say it was easy, 10% of 9 is 0.9. So that was their score. We also looked at the size projects. I'm concerned because a majority of our projects, almost 93% of them, are 10 work locations or less. And AUD, I think of as a sledgehammer hitting a small project like a finishing nail. And I was concerned, is this overkill for things? And I had to do a lot. I wanted to do a deep dive into that. So I went back and got 5 years worth of data from 2017 to 21 and looked at the number of projects we did every year, and just to see if it was consistent, the number of small projects to large projects, and it was. The only thing that we had a big uptick on was larger projects, and I think that was related to LED conversions. And then I took it to the next level and just looked at projects, one work location to 10 and the percentages. And if you look really 1 to 5 work locations, we're in the upper 80s. So we might want to make sure we had a tool that can handle small projects. We also did the same thing for design feedback, the type of work that they're doing, the engineering tools, just to give a full analysis of what was going on. And here are the never seen published results of that. 29 people, AUD came in at 11.101 and DXI 967. It only differed at 1.34 points, but AUD consistently rated higher than DXI in everything. And Pat's walking up closer.
Ryan, your question. He was stretching, John.
Good, because give me a chance to drink some water. So but the good thing about it was both applications are better than our current version that we have. So it was almost like a win-win. Whatever one we went with, it was going to be better than what we have. Now, for some never seen before results, this is the actual score from the people. I blurred their names out, but you can see how 21 of the 29 ranked AUD higher. And I will let you know, those are the 29 people that were in that demo. I gave an opportunity for everybody in our design organization to see both of these tools. I had both of them loaded on my laptop. I presented it further, what we call road shows, and I went around the entire system, and I showed both tools, and everybody liked them so much better than what we have now. But a majority of them still wanted to go with AUD, and I would say probably about 80% of the designers still wanted to go that route, but they would have taken either one of them. So post-demo pros and con list, mature software for AUD. Typically, new technical hires have an AutoCAD experience. Engineering calculations, one-stop shop for things. Standardization, potentially, I'm only focusing on electrical deployment, but we do have some gas design, and I would love to bring it to them as well. The cons, the cost and resources, new full-time employees. We had some concerns, only 50 people. Now you have 70, so we feel much better. But I think that's a good thing. It's a tight, I understand the business model of you don't want to have a lot of people sitting around doing nothing. So that was an initial concern. Engineering tools, from a lot of the surveys and people I talked to, people weren't taking full advantage of that. And for us, that's a very important aspect of the tool. And change management is definitely going to be a change management for our folks. Post DXI demo, easy transition for our workforce. New hires, teaching ArcFM to somebody right out of college or new, it takes a bit of work. Engineering calculations, the only thing they had was integration into SPIDA. Performance was very fast. Software is still being developed. That was one of the big things. It still lacked some key functionality we would have liked to see in it. It lacks the full array of electrical and cable pulling calculations. DOT or highway work still needs to be worked in AutoCAD, and no 3D modeling. So GIS services went through the same process that we did. They came to the meetings, they looked at the tools, they looked at things from partial posting to editing tools to versions, conflicts, integration, and their scores were a little different than ours. It wasn't as close, and I would say it was primarily because partial posting tools weren't there at the time. I don't know where Schneider is now with that, but GIS services really needs that. We need that as a company, the partial posting. All right, overall post-demo design tool evaluation. AUD, higher rated software by both design and GIS. Mature software performs all electrical, mechanical calculations, requires more resources to train and maintain, higher software costs, and provides partial posting solution. When we put a recloser on our maps, we have a system that automates the switching order. And it's really important for us to have some partial posting solution that allows us to write that very quickly. DXI takeaways application is still being developed. It shows very good potential, easier application to train and learn, very good performance, lower software cost, limited engineering tools, still require AutoCAD for DOT work, and no partial posting tools at the time, still under development. Now, my closing thoughts and questions. I'm a GIS design tool type of guy. I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm very comfortable in it. I typically know the answer before the user finishes the question. I can make the application sing and dance. I'm working 5 moves ahead. But I have limited AutoCAD experience. from the early 20s. But even I can see that there's something really special about AUD, even with all those other factors. And I'm not here to bash another company. I'm just sharing our analytics, our user feedback. I think DXI is a very good tool that has great potential. However, AUD is the best tool for our business needs right now.